October 10th. And this is the meeting, the October meeting of the Curricular and Co-Curricular Committee of the Monroe Township Board of Education. And I just want to be the first at a public meeting to congratulate Dr. Shari Chanley on finally receiving her doctorate.
Congratulations.
She wanted to be the first one, Miss Skirby, and she did.
Sorry, Christy. So we have at the table, board members, myself and Carmen Alvarez, dear God, I'm so sorry. And Christy Skirby and Gonzalo Bora are on the phone with us this evening remotely. And around the table, we have the usual cast of characters. I'm not going to go through everybody's names because this is always a lively discussion meeting. So we're going to start on the agenda tonight with our discussion items. So Dr. Higgins from high school, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, very quickly and very briefly, the short version is in, I believe, the beginning of the summer or late spring of last year, we made changes to the required courses for graduation for the high school. I am asking, and I'm going to bring to the policy committee to just update those changes. To be very quick, straightforward about it is we removed 10 credits from what was needed to graduate. We went from 130 to 120 credits. Taking away or removing the 10 credits, we removed the fourth year of math, which was 5 credits, and we removed 5 credits from what we are requiring for electives. That was what the change we have made. The update I would like to make is instead of taking the 5 credits away from the electives, we need to take 5 credits away from visual and performing arts. This will bring us, and I believe, Ms. Belko, you actually asked a question when we were doing this about visual and performing arts at the time. To be compliant with the state requires 5 credits in visual and performing arts. Right now, the district requires 10. We would like to require 5. This does not prevent any student from taking additional credits in visual and performing arts. As a matter of fact, those 5 credits will go into the elective area, so they can elect to take as many visual and performing arts as they wish, and it will only require the 5 credits that the state requires. This will put us back in sync as far as students being able to graduate with the requirements, only 5 credits in visual and performing arts.
And if I may,
Sure.
and I know that under the policy committee, Ms. Alvarez and I have had conversations back and forth via email. It's one simple change, page 2, item number 7, 10 to 5 done.
Okay, we'll get to that
There you go.
at the meeting
The next one.
after, no,
Oh,
not
the-
the
at the
next after.
So it's a, thank you very much, Dr. Higgins.
No problem.
Does anyone on the phone have any questions?
So thank you, Mrs. Belko. That's pretty simple. Thank you.
No
No,
question.
me.
Write it down. No questions.
And Ms. Alvarez, I'm assuming you don't have any questions?
No,
Got your questions
I know
answered?
you're gonna discuss it further in policy
Yep.
later.
Okay, that's perfect. All right, Dr. Higgins, what else do you have for us?
That's all I have for the high school.
Thank
So
you.
second and 7 is that what we're going on?
Yes, that's where we're going.
So it's Ms. McLeod.
Oh, Ms. McLeod, I'm sorry.
Yep,
Okay,
and Mr. Schneider.
2nd and 7. So what's the play? Punt or we're
I
gonna?
was gonna say,
It's football season, 2nd and 7.
hey, just one.
I think that's a run move, but okay, that's, you know.
So this was brought to my attention last year. We weren't able to fully get it off of the ground. So I met with Yale and Stephen, and what this is a reading program. It's to tackle illiteracy, basically, but we have literacy here, so we're going to lend ourselves to being more literate. And this nonprofit company actually developed this program where student athletes or college athletes read to all of the 2nd grade classes. So we met and we decided that if we could run this 3 times, once in the fall, winter, and spring, we could get all of our high school athletes to read to our 2nd grades in all 6 schools. So we developed a schedule We filled out an application to the company who accepted us and allowed us to do this with them. When our student athletes go in to read to the classrooms, they'll be reading one of their authentic books, which is very cute, The Hog Molly's and Little Lily's Legacy. Every student will get a book. So this will be read to them by the athletes. And then they get a book, and each one has a really, like, a nice theme. This one's leadership and anti-bullying. And then the idea from Stephen is for our athletes to go in, they will get volunteer hours. They will be in their uniforms with Sharpies as celebrities to sign the books to our second grade. So we hope to run this again in the winter, where they'll send us another set of books, and then in the spring, another set of books. Each one we're gonna send home with a parent letter that comes with the entire packet. And again, we all work together. I know that Stephen spoke with Kevin to kind of get this off the ground. I spoke with Kelly, and we think that this will be a really nice way to kind of bring everybody together from all different levels.
So she covered all the pieces. There's one more piece as well. In order to incorporate a little bit of work-based learning, we're also going to use some of our students to actually put in the papers for us beforehand as an opportunity for them to contribute to this great idea as well.
And we're doing this on October 26th.
The three of us are gonna split up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll cover as many schools as possible.
I don't know if they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
It's with the lights, okay. Sorry, those of you who are not here, the lights are flickering in here. Not really sure what the spirits are trying to tell us, but okay. No, that sounds really good. Does anybody have any questions? Anyone on the phone have any questions?
Mrs. Belko, if I may, I have goosebumps. This is such a great idea. I have to say, I would have had goosebumps if I was a mom of a second grader, but as a mom of high school athletes, I feel like this is so special. I just wanted to understand a little bit more. Where did this opportunity come from, Mrs. McLeod?
When I started this job last year, one of the high school VPs brought this to my attention with the athletic director. We never fully got it off the ground, but they knew about this nonprofit company. And then I was so excited about it. So I brought it to Stephen, and he became excited about it, and we just continued. We worked together to kind of get this off the ground this year. And the books, I love the message in all of the books. So I think that is something really great to bring to our younger students, especially from their high school role models.
Absolutely. I can't wait for October 6th to see students in uniform reading to the little girls and boys. It'll be so exciting. Thank you. I'm so excited for this idea.
Great.
I just have one question. How are we picking the high school students to go? Which athletes are we picking? How are we doing that? What's the criteria?
So right now, we're gonna go with seniors who have either senior option or early out, just to make it easier for us to get the athletes there. Again, it's just a preliminary thing to try to see if we can make it a little bit easier to get the athlete. But I think as we move forward, if we can find a way to get other student athletes involved as well, I think that would be okay. Either run like a field trip or something like that. No, I know I sat down with Dr. Higgins to kind of ask him, if that would work out with some of the seniors, and we seem to think that would probably be the best option this first time around. And again, when we do it in the winter and spring, if we want to try to target other athletes, that would be fine as well. I'm doing the bike up there.
Are we doing any kind of an in-service for those seniors who are gonna go and read to the the second graders?
The very interesting and cool part about this is it actually gives them an entire sheet of pre-reading, reading, and post-reading questions. It talks about what to do, even it goes as far as put your jersey on, check in at the main office. So before they do any of this, they'll get that, which is free visit, and then the office at every elementary school knows who to welcome, what classrooms to send them to. We have a list of all of our second grades, all of our, including special education, self-contained classes. Everybody in second grade will get visits. And if we have an overabundance, we can send 4 to 5 readers to a room. So there'll be a bunch of them who
And
will
our-
be able to read.
And our goal is to send athletes from mixed sports. Like, I'm not gonna send 4 football players. Like, I would mix them in with some of the other sports, male and female, so that it's a nice diverse group going to the different classrooms.
Excellent, excellent. Very well thought out. Anyone else have any other questions? Nice. Thank you. I'm excited. That's a very exciting, I'm excited to see some pictures.
Mr. Morale has been roped in already.
That's a
Some
Friday,
pictures,
right?
as long as the parents approve.
Yeah,
Our permission
We
for
were gonna
pictures
go
to go out on social media, please.
I'm gonna put on my jersey.
All right, so we are into curriculum documents now, unless somebody else has discussion items before we move on. So, of course, discussion items, I like them. So we have, the first thing I have up here is AP Government and Politics. Ms. Trust.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, the first curriculum that I have up is the AP Government Politics. This is a revision. Recently, the AP course put in a new, course and exam, description, which has some changes that we wanted to update to make sure that, we were effective. So this document is aligned to all the learning standards for social studies, as well as the C3 framework, as well as the AP course curriculum. So the idea behind this course is really to give students a feeling of what a college level course in government and politics would be. The key here is that it is nonpartisan, and they are going to be using and examining several political concepts, Supreme Court decisions, and several fundamental documents. There are required foundational documents that must be infused. Those are the Articles of the Confederation, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Federalist number 10, Federalist number 51, Federalist number 70, Federalist number 78, and Letter from a Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. So these are required that the students use these throughout the course to really analyze and examine the political system and our constitutional system in the United States. So the units are the foundation of American government, interactions of the branches of government, civil rights and civil liberties, American political ideologies, political participation, and our last unit that we have is state and local government, where our curriculum writer, who did a great job, she really focused on local Monroe government as well as the state of New Jersey. This particular AP course does ask that students do a civic component project where they have to pick something on their own that they want to work on, and then make a presentation to the class on how they would make civic action happen in their community. So sometimes students pick things like recycling or different things. It could be within the high school itself, or it could even be within the local government. So they have spoken sometime with different Monroe government officials to help assist them with their projects. So that last piece is a really nice piece because it really gives them a feel for our state and local government. So that is pretty much it for that. It's a really great course. The kids really get to approach and understand how our government functions. And it is a course that the AP also worked with the National Constitution Center on. So hopefully they're putting out really good resources, and the kids leave with a really good sense of how our government functions.
Carmen, do you have any questions?
I want to know when does it go into, or when will it become available to the students?
They already take
They
it.
already
So this is just really a revision. Typically what happens is AP puts out
new course descriptions where they changed something. This curriculum hadn't been rewritten in a while, so it just so happened that they put in a new exam description / course description that's effective right now. So we just took the opportunity to update, but we do have students that have taken this course for a while. It's been at the high school a long time.
And I had a second question. Is it a challenge to keep it partisan? Or are you finding that that's not
Non-partisan. Why to be non?
nonpartisan, right?
I believe that the teacher, as well as how this document is set up, strives very much to make sure we do that. It is very important that in all of our social studies classes, no matter what kind of course it is, that they are nonpartisan, that at no time does any of the teacher put in or infuse their own political views. So I know that we're always working towards that. But this particular course, it really does give students the opportunity to take a look at these documents, do some interpretation, and then be able to come up with things on their own and synthesize some of their own ideas. But for everything that is presented, it really is considered, I guess the right word would be fair.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone on the phone have any questions?
Yes, Mrs. Belker, really quick. Misters, which grade is this course allowed? Sophomore onwards, or it has to be junior and senior?
I apologize. I have to look at the course description. It is, I believe right now, it is fundamentally 11th and 12th graders, but I have to look at the program of studies. I don't have it right in front of me. I do apologize.
No worries, no worries.
So
And
I can-
that's all right. I can find out later from you. I did want to also comment on, so you mentioned that the staff member that did the revision leaned in on Monroe Township government to, add that element to our course. Is this standard practice for AP courses of these types? Is it allowed? Like, I've never heard of this before, so I was just curious. Is this done? Is this common practice?
So what happens is the local government won't necessarily be on the AP exam, but the test is in May. So what happens is once they are finished with the required material from AP, they then get to focus on this unit on state and local government. And that's when they choose to do their civics project. So that is the way that we have chosen to give the students some background to be able to really do a good project. So there's not going to be a specific question on the AP Gov saying, explain how the mayor of Monroe is selected. But once that exam is finished, we wanted to provide a really robust experience for the students to be able to do that civics project. And this was the way that our curriculum, we felt, to give them that background knowledge to be able to do it. And it is 12th grade. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was really good to know that you guys do this after May, and it adds a little bit more dimension and depth to the learnings of the students. Thank you so much, Mrs.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions? I just have a comment. The timeline, I'm looking at the timeline, and I like how the political participation section falls from the March to April kind of piece, because we did move our Board of Ed elections, which are nonpartisan elections, so it's kind of a good April, yeah, so to me, it kind of is makes sense, kind of fits in, right? Since that's what we're currently doing, so I thought that was an interesting correlation. Not that it means anything, but thought it was an interesting correlation. Okay, so next up is Mr. Moraldo with Entrex Lab. Would you mind that?
No.
There you
Go.
Thank you, Ms. Belko. I have one curriculum document this evening, and that is for one of our business electives at the high school, which is called the Entrex Lab. I'll get behind the origin of the name in a moment. The Entrex Lab is one of our dual credit programs at Monroe Township High School, which means that students have the opportunity upon successful completion to secure college credit. And in this particular case, we have an agreement with the University of Delaware. This program was formerly known as entrepreneurship class as recently as a few years ago. And then we made a programmatic decision at the high school to take the program in another direction when we started to look at what our students were studying in college and some of the more, some of the feedback we were getting from the children and the community upon what types of courses they would like to take as electives in the practical arts. So we brought some staff on that had some experience in the back in that area, and we started exploring in alignment with some of Dr. Higgins' goals for post-secondary partnerships that Delaware, specifically their Horn Entrepreneurial Center, had a program that really fit the description of what we were trying to do with the high school program, and the origins of this program were born. It started off as a blended curricular overhaul through the entrepreneurship program, as I mentioned, in conjunction with a grant that we had won from the Monroe Ed Foundation in 2021 to help get this thing going, because the Entrex Lab does have a co-curricular counterpart, which is obviously something that comes with a cost that was unbudgeted for, so we used the grant money to kind of get it going and sustain it over time. So with regard to the curricular course, we are very, our scope is very narrow because we have to maintain our alignment with the expectations of the Horn Entrepreneurship Center in Delaware, but we also have to make sure it meets the needs of our learners here in Monroe and in New Jersey. So it's driven by the standards that you would expect out of Standard 9, our career readiness, life literacies, and key skills. What's unique about this program, and then part of the reason why it offers that dual credit affiliation, is because it has a very dedicated area in our standards, CTE standards, career technical education standards in the Department of Education, which align very nicely with an advanced level marketing course. Obviously, we always layer our programs with the social emotional learning standards that correspond with career ready practices that we try to install. It's important to know that when we discuss social emotional learning, that includes many different aspects of that type of discipline. In this particular program, the entrepreneurship course and the curriculum that it offers is very competitive, oftentimes can be very cold and shrewd in the way that our students interact competitively, but also in some of the challenges that they engage in. So teaching that resilience and the ability to react to setbacks is very important, and we consider that part of the social emotional development of our young learners as we prepare them for the collegiate experience. Some of the things that are unique about this class, it is a very rigorous class, as you might imagine, given the fact that there's college credits at stake. Our curriculum is driven by multiple sources. So while the Entrex program at the University of Delaware serves as the foundation, we also blend in other curriculum management systems, more specifically the Exec Lab, which is a newer entrepreneurial system offered at many colleges throughout the country. And the reason we chose this one is because this year we are including a beta AI system, artificial intelligence system, that is going to serve as a simulator for each individual student. So each student has a license with this AI counterpart that works with them on each learning module. And one example that we wanted to talk about tonight was how one of the units that we discussed teaches students how to deal with clients. And there's automated dialoguing simulations that we could run through this artificial intelligence software, all under the supervision of our staff, of course, that really can take this type of learning to the next level. And it's really cool that this class can offer our students in this day and age this experience as we really start to wrap our hands around what AI can do as a learning tool. And it's something that we're featuring in this class as part of the Entrex curriculum. The other thing that's really neat about this is, as driven that these students are in preparation for rigorous education and business, many of the things that we do are service driven. And just as recently as last week, this program hosted the Women's Leadership Conference at the high school, which had a tremendous turnout and visitors from Jamesburg, Monroe, and it was run by these students. And it's just a byproduct of what this class can offer learners. And that was important to know, that as driven and as hungry as these students are for business and to get right after it, there's also a very large service component to this course, which we like. And of course, all the cross-departmental learning that naturally comes to a course founded on entrepreneurial, learning. Like I said, our units are cherry picked right from the Entrex program at Delaware. So they are a little big, but I mean, if you had a chance to look through stage one, you get an idea about some of the things that the students were doing. Ms. Vitalen, who designed the curriculum for us, also teaches the class and oversees the co-curricular programs, which are known as Launch Lab and the Entrepreneurial and Innovation Association. She uploaded some sample assessments in there, and you can see everything is performance-based, but we also had a large research component to the class, and obviously public interactions and communal learning is important. So that's the essence of this class. It's evolving as we speak. Delaware, we go down there a couple times a year as part of the learning experience, where students can elect to procure or secure the Delaware credits. It's $500 for 3 credits, so it's an absolute steal if a student plans on going to the University of Delaware. And we've talked about that with some of our other dual credit programs here, about how if students successfully complete the classes, they're really getting 3 college credits at an extremely discounted price. So, but it is an option. Have to do it. But these are the types of things that Dr. Higgins and I are trying to continue to layer in the high school world with our programs of study. So that's the course, and this is our second full year as Entrex. This will be our second full year as Entrex, formerly known as entrepreneurship. Any questions?
It was previously known as.
Entrepreneurship,
And how long did we have that class for before we did this soundtrack?
before I was here.
Yeah, wow.
It used to, so entrepreneurship used to run our school store. It was kind of in conjunction with that.
Okay.
And so obviously the nature and the expectation of that program changed. It used to just be kind of like how to start your own business and sell stuff. Now, obviously, our students are pursuing entrepreneurship and that type of study in a much different way.
I believe Mr. Z started that
He did.
program when he came up from Woodland,
Brookside.
Brookside,
Yeah.
and that he just retired, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah, no, he ran that program forever, and we were talking about it before we went on, but that program is in the midst of a significant transition that we'll share when we're a little bit more in place.
Yeah, sure. No, it's great. That's great. And it definitely looks like it's been modernized, so I like that.
I just wanted to go back to that grant money. You said it was, to start the program, there was grant money that was used. Is that something we need every year?
No, that
Or
was
just startup costs and then?
Yeah, and again, that money allowed us to support the co-curricular complement of this program. So and really just with the onboarding of some materials, software, things like that. And I give credit to the teacher. She was on the job, Ms. Vitalen, I should say her name. She was on the job for about 6 weeks and took advantage of the grant application because she had the vision for the program, and she knew that she wasn't gonna have scratch do anything, especially at that point in the year, and we capitalized, and you're still reaping the benefits because we still own some of that software.
Yeah, that's great.
So. Great. Anybody on the phone have any questions?
Nope, I'm good, Katie. Thank you.
Mrs. Bora?
Thank you, Mrs. Bucko. Yes, I had a couple comments and then one little question. So, Mr. Morales, thank you for sharing that, the details of that class. I honestly do some days wish I could be a student in Monroe High School for the great classes that you're offering. And this one definitely is top of my list. And I heard great things about the Women in Leadership program, and I did not know that that was connected to this class. So that was a job very well done by the students and the class. You mentioned that the store is part of this entrepreneurship class, which is, the new Entrex Lab. I've gotten a little feedback from the community in the past month, coincidentally, about there's a lot of interest from, for buying from the store, and I'm sure you're already working on it. And I'm sure this class is already working on a web version of the store. That could definitely get us some revenue. There's a lot of apps for Monroe High School apparel, and the store is not accessible to parents as such, more to the students. So that was my comment. And my question was, is this class only for juniors and seniors, or are we offering it earlier on in high school? Thank you.
I'll answer your second question first, if you don't mind. So it's currently open to sophomores through seniors. It's just our programs of study currently admit students from those grade bands, simply because there is a little bit more discipline, expectation of the students, and we're not saying that definitively that wouldn't be on the table. But, that was the advice that we had received from the University of Delaware at the time, as far as who to admit into the course. We do have prerequisites. We prefer students take marketing 1 or at minimum another business education course prior to entry. With regards to the school store, as a point of clarification, and I apologize if I misspoke or if I was offering confusing assessment or analysis of the program. The entrepreneurship class, which is what the Entrex class has become, has since separated from the school store. The school store is now operating as a separate program aside from the Entrex program under the guidance of our business and fine arts program as a multi-departmental venture. So it's run in conjunction by a teacher from the business program and the art program. Our vision as we build out, and it's too bad you weren't here because we were just talking about it before we went live, is to continue to develop that. We're in the process of literally liquidating all of our previous merchandise we opened up on back to school night at the high school, and our students and our new advisors are in the process of product development, a new online presence, and one of our objectives is not only to integrate the entire district into the marketplace, but also integrate our athletic department and some of the things that we want to do with our clubs to really use the school store here at the high school as a central point for all things, all programmatic opportunities. And what we had said is if there's a football game and you miss the football fundraiser, you should be able to go to the school store and get like a football shirt or soccer or whatever activity, mathletes, whatever you want to do. And our goal would be not just to be limited to the storefront, but also to have a digital marketplace. So we're definitely excited about what the future of the school store is going to be, but it does run separate from the Entrex Lab. Those programs no longer have an affiliation.
Thank you. You might have said that and I must have misunderstood, but thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Monroe.
No problem.
Any other questions? For the ground, we're good. Mr. Moraldo, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your information and your time. Okay, it looks like we are up to elementary math. Ms. Gasco, please.
Good evening, everyone. It's not going to be grade 1 though. Grade 1 is going to be the next month. The teacher has a couple little minor tweaks that have to be done to finish it, and I didn't want to bring it to the table without it being totally finished. But I do have 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we did kindergarten last month. So just to give you kind of a quick review, we talked last month about the fact that the New Jersey student learning standards for math are being updated by the state. They're going to be considered the 2023 standards. They are in the process of being finalized in terms of the proposal, but everything in there are things that are just addressing current standards and bringing them into the math. So it's things that have to be done anyway. Just to give you kind of a quick recap, measurement and data, which was always combined in the past, is now a measurement domain and then a data literacy domain with an emphasis on the data literacy. And that is really just to have the skill set of asking questions, collecting data, analyzing, interpreting, communication about data, and just kind of bringing that all through as a kindergarten through 5th grade skill going through. And it's all done at an appropriate level. In the new standards, they are also trying to have a focus of dealing with solving problems for money at a later time. So they want to establish basically the skills that they need in terms of money to be able to make sure that they know those, so then when they get to the higher grades in terms of the 4th and 5th and so, that they can actually do word problems involving them. They were doing that for the most part in those classes anyway, but this is now just putting it more formally into the standards. Money was, again, one of those things that they were emphasizing, then de-emphasizing, and now they're going back and emphasizing it again. The term fluency is being taken out of the standards, and it is just being updated to a more appropriate term that is going to be having emphasis on accuracy and efficiency. Again, as I told you last month, it's really so that it's not a speed, it's about being able to be accurate at it and efficient at it, but doing something in 60 seconds versus 70 seconds is not necessarily going to be the most important thing that they have. We have also added into all curriculums, tier 2 and tier 3 vocabulary. The Envisions program has a heavy emphasis on vocabulary in terms of math terms anyway. The teachers have been doing that all the way through. It is now just identifying those words and literally putting the vocabulary words into the curriculum documents. Again, remember the whole purpose of the documents is so that if a teacher is brand new to this course or brand new to even teaching, they have a guide, they have something to follow through, and it's really just giving them a lot of the go-to things to have. In the 2023 standards as well, there's going to be a foundation that's trying to set it with the statistics, and that's where the data literacy comes in, to be able to help the students when they get to middle school in terms of statistical expectations that they have going through. In each of the documents, kindergarten through 5th grade, we've got examples of differentiation. There's the math workshop model that the far majority of the classes use going through, and so we've really broken that down. And again, for somebody that's new to this, and it's not as just something that they do going through, it's giving them an idea of what the different stations are and how to actually set it up. And then they would have mentor teachers going through. Climate is also emphasized in real world scenarios, and we have incorporated all of those into the documents going through because there is an actual standard of that, a 2020 standard. The math standards is actually bringing it in and telling you where that would be a good fit in terms of that. So we've given suggestions with that. In terms of technology, what I've done is we've really identified specific technology, specific types of examples of what we would be used as opposed to just a title of something going through. So that's kind of the overview of all of the curriculum documents. And then I'm just going to give you a couple quick little updates in terms of each of the different grade levels, if that's okay with you, Ms. Belko.
Sure.
All right, so we'll start with grade 2. So again, grade 2 and the idea of the accuracy and efficiency, that's going to be emphasized in the unit that will be adding and subtracting within 20, because that would be the level that they're doing that, giving them the strategies that they should be able to use with that. In addition, there's going to be, for the data literacy component, there's going to be understanding that people can collect data to answer different questions, and that the data can actually vary, that they could identify what would count as data. So it's done at a very elementary and a very basic level, but it's the idea of putting that vocabulary term along with what they're doing going through. So if you want to bring in climate change, an example could be they could be incorporating the use of picture graphs or bar graphs going through. So they're bringing in all of the different components, and that just might be dealing with the weather outside or dealing with whether there's moisture in the air or not moisture going through. So in terms of shapes and attributes, there's just going to be a clarification that the sizes are being compared directly or visually. So the idea is modeling going through, and that is pretty much it when it comes to grade 2. Do you want me just to go through each of the grade levels and then questions at the end? Okay, so grade 3. One of the things that's been tweaked is the algebraic thinking, and that's going to be representing and solving problems with multiplication and division. And so again, the idea would be incorporating real life examples. So you might have the idea of dealing with the standards is actually suggested maybe the health of plants, animals, or people. They're bringing in true real life examples, and they're giving the teachers some ideas of suggestions. Students, again, it's big in elementary, they could be recording weather, they could be recording whether or not it's the temperature, whether it's sunny or not, and involving those type of applications into multiplying and dividing. So now at this level, we're moving on to a different type of an operation. The properties of multiplying and the relationship between multiplying and division, there is going to be the vocabulary words of commutative property, associative property, and distributive property. It will be discussed in class, but it will not be a term that they will have to actually recite back, memorize, or get graded right or wrong or something. But it does bring in the terminology going through, and that actually will be terms that get used later on. And again, there'll be a lot of problem solving involving the 4 operations. And with grade 3, it's numbers and operations in base 10, and then dealing with multi-step problems. Data literacy, the examples that they're giving would be including developing database questions and deciding whether or not the data could answer the question. So they don't have to do a full-fledged project, but the teacher could if they wanted to incorporate this with a social studies class or a science class or something like that going through. So again, it's the idea of starting to collect data at that point. And that's grade 3. Grade 4 is very similar. It's just an extension going on in terms of the multiplying and dividing with bigger numbers and now bringing decimals and fractions into it. Fractions are becoming big at that point. The data literacy would obviously, then the idea would be to incorporate that type of data that would have fractions, that would have decimals, and then again, problems that would have 4 operations of multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. And the idea is that it's just actually going to be supporting the mathematics that goes along with that. I envision there being projects that are done in the class and that it will be subjects that are across it that would have a, a language arts component, a science component, possibly social studies, depending on where it is in the world that they're talking about, and then the math as well going through. Measurement is a big thing at this time, and that's where a lot of the fractions and the decimals get brought in going through. And then last but not least, grade 5. And again, grade 5 is really having a heavier emphasis on the algebraic thinking on fractions and decimals, dealing with accuracy and efficiency going through. Fractions and decimals are really through grades 3, 4, and 5, and then they get morphed into the middle school as well going through. And again, a heavy emphasis from the standards right now is dealing with the application base going through. And I could go more detailed into some of those, but it really kind of brings it in. The one thing that they're really emphasizing is the fact that they want this all the way through kindergarten through 5th grade, not just at the higher levels of 4th and 5th grade. And, it's done little and slowly, and there's, going through just the whole idea of incorporating the math into the world. Questions?
Do you have any questions? Any questions from the folks on the phone?
Yes, Mrs. Belko, quick clarification. I'm not sure if I heard it right, but when you were giving an overall overview, you mentioned that the money problems are moving to higher grades. Did I hear that right, Ms. Gasco?
So money is taught in kindergarten and 1st grade, all right? And then the idea is grade 2nd is where it really begins the working with time and money. And then the idea is 3rd, 4th, and 5th will incorporate that into word problems as well. And so if you think about the whole basis they have, and again, I know I'm emphasizing a lot of the data literacy, but that is really where the major change is. And it's the application based of that the hope would be that would have money involved in it, not necessarily time, but money in terms of that going through into the rest of the data that they're collecting. So you might have an application that deals with possibly like Ms. Veralda's school store, and they're talking about items that they have, but then there's a cost that goes along with it. You could do it either with fractions, you could do it with decimals as well. You could have a baking class or a cooking class, and it could bring in the fractions. That would probably be more fractions than decimals going through, but then they could bring in the money component into that as well. Kind of like as a multi-step equation or problem.
Thank you for that clarification. I was understanding that we are delaying the introduction of money. So that's not, we're actually bringing it more deeply.
Yes, we're not delaying. It's still being taught at the early grades. And again, the money is literally taught in kindergarten and 1st grade. But it's the idea of using money as you get into the higher levels, just to kind of keep it real.
That makes sense. Thank you. That is all, Mrs. Belko.
Thank you. Chrissy?
Now, related to this, I think I remember we changed books for some of the math courses in the elementary school. Did we change the curriculum books?
So we had a new adoption, but the new adoption was still the Envisions program.
Okay.
So we've had Envisions for a long time. So, but the Envisions that we had prior to the last 2 years was Envisions 2016. 2020 was very, very similar. They tweaked a couple things, and really more they tweaked their, I want to say, the way they broke up in-class work with out-of-class work and homework and things like that. But it is literally probably 95% exactly the same as what they've had.
Okay, and the videos that came along with that in the packages, I guess that we purchased, is there anything different that we're no longer getting? Because that's been commented to me by some parents that, you know, quote unquote, the district took away the capability to have videos within the elementary math programs, that they used to be able to access videos and they can't no more.
So that's new to me. I can definitely look into it. There are still videos that go along with it. There's not necessarily a video for every single solitary lesson, but I have not heard that before, that with the online component that the parents had, that they couldn't see video. So I will definitely look into that for you. But none of that should, I mean, there might have been a lesson here or there that changed, that they felt something wasn't working or something wasn't as appropriate, but there are still videos that go along with the lessons. I will look into that for you, Mrs. Kirby, though, because in the past, that was one of the key things that we had, especially if somebody was home and they were ill or they were out for a few days, that they would be able to use.
Okay.
Any other questions, anybody? Okay, thank you, Ms. Gaston. Ms. Trush, you are up again. You started us, now you're gonna get to finish us.
So, my next two documents are our United States History 2 and US 2 Honors. These are both courses that are, that fulfill our graduation requirement. So, we really wanted to take the time to update these and revise them for a couple of reasons. Number one, we wanted to make sure that they were aligned to the 2020 standards, but also, for both of these documents, the US 2 curriculum itself is unique in that it is the history that is always continuing to grow. And it is very challenging because, as you can imagine, each year there's new events, there's new topics that are important for American history. Yet we still have to make sure we are doing due diligence to all of the things that came in the past. So US 2 is that unique where every couple of months or every couple of days, in some cases, history is being made. And we have to try to make sure we're addressing that as well as addressing the standards. So the teachers worked really, really hard. The writers did an excellent job to work on pacing and to make sure that we're really hitting the standards as well as doing justice to new events as they come up. So we also were able to include some new resources. We've talked about before document-based questions. So we have a bank of those that we were able to infuse, so teachers have some options to be able to do that. We also had a professional development last year from the New York Historical Society. They came out and did some presentations to the high school as well as the middle school about some of the resources they have that we can infuse into our curriculum. So we were been able to use some of their resources that they have in their catalog and put those in as well. So that's been a really nice thing to have another added bonus area to look for resources. So the main skills that no matter whether which document we're looking at, we are trying to have students develop questions and plan inquiry, gathering and evaluating sources, seeking diverse perspectives, doing claims and using evidence, presenting arguments and explanations. And one of the things that is a skill that the state is especially looking for is being able to engage in civil discourse and critiquing conclusions. So being able to really look at a topic from all sides and be able to engage in conversation about it. As all of our documents, there are remote learning strategies that are found throughout. And our time period that this covers is World War I to today. So World War I, the 20s, Great Depression, World War II, Cold War, post-war boom, civil rights movement, Vietnam, age of conservatism, and then pretty much the 90s to today. So as you can imagine, like I was saying in the beginning, this is a lot. So we're always trying to see how we can best make sure that we're covering all of it. So some key differences, if you were to ask, between the honors US2 and US2 is the expectation of the level of depth when writing responses. On an honors level, we really would expect more detailed analysis and more intensive writing, as well as differentiated projects. So when you look between, even though these are the same standards, the approach that the teachers take in having students do different projects really works to cover those standards to get to those different levels of mastery that we're looking for. So they did a really great job. There's some really interesting projects in here. One of them that I thought was interesting is for the stormy 60s, so to speak, the students can do a protest fair where they pick something that they are interested in, and they will present that to a group at large. They also, for the 20s, do Instagram posts as famous people from the 1920s. Sometimes there's also like, you know, just learning to dance the Charleston. So just interesting things. And I also wanted to state that due to the way that we are covering the topics, they do start with the first unit is actually called Into the 21st Century. So it does start with more modern events because those are things that the students are more familiar with. And it's really in the pursuit of, hopefully, again, based off of how much we do have to cover, that we actually do get to cover some of the more modern events. So the writers really did an excellent job, and they are really trying to make sure we get it all in.
Interesting. So do we, with that sort of back down kind of thought process, starting from the end and going to the beginning, do we miss some of the instruction for World War I, 20s? Do we, how do we sort of do them both together? What do we do?
So what they do is the first unit really takes a look at more current history. And students have some choice to do a project where they're looking at some contemporary issues, doing some research, and making some presentations with that. We also look at things like, for example, it's that this first unit is a little bit more thematic. So for example, you can look at terrorism. Well, we can look at domestic terrorism. You can, and we can say, and there's even within the document, it'll say, you can talk about Oklahoma City bombing. Mm-hmm. You can talk about several other examples, but then you can talk about the United States and terrorism at large. Then you can talk about, usually we try to definitely do it in the beginning as well, elections. So if it's a, election year for a presidential election cycle, how does that election work? Either way, they're still talking about it. And then looking at different presidencies, Bush 1, Bush 2, Clinton, and some of the policies that are in that. So they really spend this first unit really giving some choice, but also embedding those larger themes into it. Then they kick into World War I.
Any questions? Ms. Bora? Did we lose them?
Sorry, I just couldn't hit the unmute button. I don't have I just need to know if this course, is this course available in freshman year to our students, Mrs. Strauss?
No, it's US2. So our current sequence right now is all of our freshmen take some form of world history, whether it's
well,
world history, honors world, there's many options there. Then as sophomores, they take US 1. And then now this is US 2, which they take as juniors.
Okay, yeah. And I have to comment, while you were explaining this, you said current history, and I couldn't help but smile at that point. Current history. Thank you so much for the detail.
Used to be called current events. Back when you read newspapers, I'm dating myself. Like it had to bring in current event or what we're going and it couldn't be from the comic section. It had to be from the news section where there was more print than pictures.
And the teachers, they really do an excellent job of trying to make sure that, you know, there's many links in here with current event sites. So that, you know, the students are really getting, as much exposure as possible, while, as you mentioned, still getting, due diligence to the, according to most juniors, like probably real distant past, not that distant to me, but, to them, being able to, you know, have that same understanding as, you know, Nixon and Watergate as they do at some of these other things, so.
Interesting. Any questions for me? Anybody else? Well, this is a first.
Oh, we're done early.
Mr. Morali, you don't have anything you want to bring up? Well, then, that ends our curriculum meeting for the October session. So thank you all. Appreciate your time. And have a good night.
Night, everyone.
I got it.
Good night, thank you.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.